All right, so we know that it won't be long before politicians stick their foot in their mouths when it comes to these shootings, both in El Paso, Texas, and Ohio. So what should they do? What should they say? Well, I come up with this idea: pray, prep, and accept. Listen, you may not be a Christian, you may not be a religious person at all, so maybe prayer doesn't work for you in that event. I would say the Bible is still helpful. There's a passage in the Bible that says, grieve with those that grieve, mourn with those that mourn, and I think politicians should follow that lesson. A lot of people have lost their family members suddenly, and they're going to be devastated. So just shut up, grieve with them, mourn with them, listen to them. You don't have to be political. You don't have to immediately try to enact legislation. Take some time to think about this. It's as simple as that. But aid, comfort, and support. That's what politicians should be offering right now, not their big mouths, quite frankly, like we already see from Robert Francis O'Rourke in El Paso, Texas, shifting the blame to everyone, or to President Trump specifically, but not shifting the blame to the shooters. And the blame lies with the shooters. Let's start there. So let's blame the shooters. Let's grieve and mourn with the families. Let's start there. And then prep. Listen, we live in crazy times. You just have to be prepared for the worst. Maybe you're not a gun owner like I am. But when you go in, I don't care if it's a McDonald's, now look, a Walmart, you have to be aware of your surroundings. Anything that looks suspicious, crazy, keep your eye out on that person or them. Just be aware that crazy stuff can happen when you're out in the public. You have to be prepared for that. You know, I listen, obviously as a gun owner, I would recommend that you get familiar if you live in a state where you can, and that should be all 50 states, but you should get familiar with learning how to handle a gun. You should get familiar with learning how to do some basic self-defense moves, or maybe even takedown moves when it comes to this type of stuff, just in case, just for yourself, just to feel more confident in yourself in the event that something like this happens where you're at, and you won't freeze up. You know, so that's what I do: pray, prep, and accept. Another thing is just mentally, you have to, I've learned to accept that there are evil people in this world. And there's not going to be, you know, these politicians will come out and say, ban guns, ban this, ban that. Man, guns don't work when it comes to evil. Or I'm sorry, banning guns won't work when it comes to evil. A gun is a piece of metal. You know what I mean? It's like you have to deal with the person's heart. That's what you have to deal with. You got to deal with the person's heart. And in my opinion, the only way you're going to deal with a person's heart is God and truth. Or if they're mentally, unstable, perhaps they've got to get some mental counseling or whatever it may be. But you have to get to a point where you accept that we live in an evil place. And these Democrats or liberals, whatever, anti-gun people can write all the anti-gun legislation they want. That isn't going to stop someone with evil intent from finding a gun, getting a gun, or getting some weapon, using a car, using a knife, using whatever to commit the atrocities that they will. That's why you have to be prepared. You can't count on politicians. You can't wait on politicians. You have to be prepared. If laws always worked against evil people, our jails, our prisons would not be full. They wouldn't be full. We wouldn't, if banning guns worked, you wouldn't see the gun violence in Baltimore. You wouldn't see the gun violence in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. If banning guns worked, we wouldn't see the violence in the inner cities that we see. It doesn't work because you're not dealing with people's hearts. Pray, prep, and accept. If you don't believe in prayer, aid, comfort, and support, that and I believe that's part of prayer. You pray, but also you offer that aid, comfort, and support for those that are grieving. and mourning. Prepare for the worst. You never know. Look, these mass shootings have been so random. You never know when and where you'll be, where one may occur. And accept the fact that there are evil people in this world, and no law that is written is going to stop them from being evil. That is a matter of the heart. In my opinion, that is a God matter. And we have to start. We can't remove the Bible out of the culture and expect for people to just live well. There's got to be some moral standards. There's got to be some objective truth that says this is bad, this is evil, and we've got to accept that, people. I'm sorry. These mass shootings are so sad, but I don't want to hear from politicians talking about ban guns or, man, just grieve with people, mourn with people. But for you, pray, prep, and accept.